Good evening and welcome to the Cancer Education Series brought to you by MercyOne and Above and Beyond Cancer. My name is Chris Goodale and I'm the Executive Director of Above and Beyond Cancer. And it is my pleasure to introduce the founder of our organization, Dr. Dick Deming. Dick?
Hey, Chris, thanks. It's my honor to be able to introduce our speaker. As many of you know, I'm from South Dakota and I am a jackrabbit. Our speaker tonight is not a jackrabbit. She is a bison from North Dakota State, but I don't hold that against her. Lori Graff will be presenting tonight. She grew up in North Dakota, not far from the Canadian border. Hey, Hoser, how you doing? And she went to North Dakota State and majored in dietetics. And I've known Lori for quite a few years now. She's done many different lectures and seminars through Above and Beyond Cancer and at our Cancer Education Series, and has done some combination nutrition and cooking classes at Kitchen Collage. Tonight, she's going to talk about immunotherapy boosting nutrition. So various forms of nutrition that can help enhance our own immune system. So without further ado, Lori Graff. Lori.
Hello, thank you. Very excited to be here. And I will start sharing my screen so that you can see our presentation for this evening. We will, one second here. Go. And yeah, so today we're talking about immunity boosting nutrients and your plan of action. History is a really great teacher. So we say things like hindsight is 20/20, or we say this phrase to our kids, when I went through that, or when I did something. However, sometimes we tend to also forget, and we forget things because new things come along. What we think we know maybe doesn't seem as important anymore. But this is all very true with nutrition as well, when we look at history. When the sailors went to sea, they had many things to be afraid of. They were afraid of a storm because a storm could easily wreck their ship. They were afraid of pirates. They could be afraid of being lost at sea. But the thing they really feared the most was death and dying from what we now call scurvy or vitamin C deficiency. So they finally learned if they would take limes or lemons and suck on those limes or lemons, they would make it to their destination. It wasn't until the mid-1930s that we classified the lemons and limes to have the vitamin C and called it scurvy. And from 1900 to 1930s, when we really discovered all the nutrients and discovered that man cannot live by the macronutrients itself. So before that, we really looked at just that people needed fat, carbohydrate, and protein. And what I find really interesting about this concept is when you go on a diet or a diet plan, what do you go on? They call it right now the keto diet, which is high fat, or the low fat diet, or maybe a high protein diet. So we still are concentrating on the macronutrients versus the micronutrients. And that's what we'll be talking about today. So one more little piece of history, and that's about vitamin A. So during the World War I, when they had food rations, people started using margarine instead of butter. But they discovered that margarine was inferior because it lacked vitamin A and vitamin D. Now, I was nowhere near alive during the early 1900s, and they talked about butter being a superior product. But during my childhood, it's interesting how we went from margarine, butter, and then back to margarine. So we'll talk more about that when we look at vitamin A. And then in 1930, a study was done where they took blood samples of children in school, and they found that the children with the highest amount of vitamin A in their blood serum missed the fewest amount of days due to being sick. So there was a direct relation there between their vitamin A consumption and their overall wellness. So fast forward to today and what we're going to talk about. We're going to understand nutrition from a deficiency and an insufficiency here in the United States. We're going to understand the importance of the immune system and how nutrition plays a role. Identify nutrients and certain nutrients that do give you a little boost to your immunity, and some action steps you might take. Now, on our right side of this slide, it's a little bit complex, and I don't want you to get lost in the complexity. I just want you to think about the word immune system, or words. So immune system is comprised of the collection of organs, cells, and tissues. So it all must work well together in one unit to have a strong system. And when we have that strong system, then our body can protect ourselves from the bacteria, viruses, and parasites and fungi. And as we're entering fall, we're entering this cold and flu season, as well as the virus that came to us last year. And that's why we're talking about immune system today. And during the fall, when immune system becomes a popular topic, it can get a little overwhelming sometimes with the emails that I receive talking about consume this nutrient and that nutrient. But in a whole, when we think about it, if we were deficient or insufficient in, let's say, something like calcium, it would still impact one of our organs, cells, or tissues, and therefore impact the system. So the same thing with a B vitamin. A B vitamin, any deficiency in B vitamin would impact some of our cells, tissues, or organs, and therefore have some effect on the immune system. So sometimes we make it much more difficult than what it needs to be. And with everything that we learned in the early 1900s, one would think that deficiency wouldn't be a problem today. Well, we are a very overfed nation. We are not a very nourished nation. This is a chart by the CDC, and it is showing deficiencies that are in the United States. And a deficiency is put at the level of whatever disease that we were trying to treat or get rid of in the early 1900s. So for example, vitamin C, we were put it at a level to avoid scurvy. So 6% of America is deficient in vitamin C, deficient, which means they are at a level that would cause scurvy. Understanding that many of these nutrients and many other nutrients, the United States is insufficient in. So before the body is starting to work not quite as well, including the immune system, way before that full deficiency begins. Let me get my slides back here. There we go. So what we're going to talk about today is the foundation of immunity boosting nutrients. Let's break it down and make it really simple and something we can start working with today. So we're going to talk about vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin D, omega-3, zinc, and flavonoids. And we're going to start with vitamin C because it's the nutrient we learn most often the first. It's the nutrient that we think of quite often first for whenever we think of immunity. And why is vitamin C important? It's because it helps with the epithelial barrier to help us protect against viruses, bacteria, pathogens. An epithelial barrier means the lining of our skin. So that's the outside of our skin, that's our mucous membranes, our respiratory system, our GI system. So once we understand that, we think, wow, that's really important. We want to prevent these pathogens from even entering our body. Super important. Now, vitamin C is found in many different fruits and vegetables. And the thing to think about with vitamin C is the RDA is only 60 milligrams. So not a lot. However, it is a very water-soluble nutrient. So what that means is almost everybody absorbs it. We don't hear anybody say, oh, I have a tough time absorbing vitamin C. We absorb it. But that also means our body uses it super, super quickly. So if you are fighting an infection, if you're under a lot of stress, having a lot of things go on in your life, you might rapidly use up that vitamin C. And you definitely don't store it, so there's nothing tomorrow. So you might want to consider adding a food with vitamin C every single meal. So simply choosing a different array of fruits and vegetables, as we have pictured here. And that brings us to vitamin A. And as you see in this picture, there might be some foods here that you didn't think about when you first think about vitamin A. Because for most of us, vitamin A, we have that picture, or the older people maybe my age and maybe not my kids' generation, when we think vitamin A, we think maybe Bugs Bunny and the carrot, and we're gonna protect our eye health with that vitamin A. Vitamin A, when we stop and really sit down and think about it, is a fat-soluble nutrient. And yet we think of vitamin A as our carrots, our squash, our peppers, bright orange, bright red colored foods. This is actually our beta-carotene. Vitamin A in the active form is found in foods that contain some fat. So in 1930, it was the butter, not the margarine, that contained the vitamin A. It's the egg yolk, not the egg white, that contains it. It's the liver. It's the fatty fish that contains the vitamin A. Now, what's really interesting about this is that our body will take beta carotene when we consume enough of it and convert it over to vitamin A for our body to use. We do need a really strong microbiome for that to happen, and we need to consume enough beta carotene. And we know the average American consumes 1 to 2 servings of fruits and vegetables. So at that level, it would be very easy to be in an have an insufficient amount of vitamin A. Maybe not deficiency, but that insufficiency. And vitamin A is one of the main nutrients of those epithelial cells that we talked about with vitamin C. So to me, this was an awareness that really a light bulb moment for me that last year, and really changed my practice of all my clients come fall season, where we really concentrated on a menu with foods that contain lots and lots of vitamin A and beta carotene. And then vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin, and just looking at the picture of the sunshine makes you feel good. If you got outside today with a little bit of sunshine, this is one of the only nutrients we're talking about today that the body can make when you're outside in the sun. And it's found in very few of our foods, and especially for here in Iowa, because it's found in fatty fish, and I know that we're the pork state, not necessarily the salmon state. Mushrooms, egg yolks, cod liver oil contain vitamin D. Other than that, your body produces the vitamin D in the months of March through September. So, and vitamin D is very well studied to show that having an adequate amount reduces your risk of respiratory infections. So we know our weight, we know our blood pressure, we know our cholesterol level. What I'm telling you is know your vitamin D level. It can be tested in most anybody's your primary care office to ask for a vitamin D test, because the science is there that just even being in that insufficient stage can reduce your immune system's ability to fight off just these common viruses that we come about this time of year, where we want to be in the optimal range of that 50 to 70. And then think about, when do you get your vitamin D tested? So if you get your vitamin D tested, let's say right now, we're in September, and we can still produce some vitamin D when we're out in the sun through this month. And your test comes back at 50. Now, vitamin D being a fat-soluble vitamin is stored up, and you're not going to get or produce any unless you travel south to southern Florida or Mexico by going out in the sun until next late March or April. So if you're at that level of 50, that's very likely not going to hold you until next spring. Now, we quite often don't think about omega-3 with immunity. We think about omega-3 with inflammation and heart disease. It's omega-3 quietly, it's in the background because we don't talk about it, but it's very, very important as it regulates the gene expression of the white blood cells, which helps regulate proper immune function. So it is a major player in our immune system. Now, as I said, and as we're broadcasting here in Iowa, and I'm assuming a good majority of you watching tonight are Iowans, that we are in the pork state, not the fish state. So I think it's important to talk about how much omega-3 do we need in our diet. And it's just 2 to 3 servings per day. I mean, not per day, per week. So if we're eating 21 meals a week, we're just talking about a couple of those, introducing mackerel, salmon, or maybe using a little cod liver oil. And I know I can't convince everybody to consume salmon, so there are some plant versions like chia seeds and walnuts. And when you look at those numbers, you're like, wow, well, I'll just do chia seeds because look at 5,000 milligrams is quite a bit. Understanding though, that is the ALA or plant version, and our body does need to take that version of ALA and convert it to that EPA or DHA. And it doesn't do this very well. In fact, it's around 2 to 3%. So if that is your main source of omega-3, you may want to consider a supplementation program as well. Zinc is the mineral we're talking about tonight, or the only mineral. And zinc is really well known nowadays because we have zinc lozenges. There's more advertising around zinc and the common cold, the flu. Zinc is the most important aspect because it's virtually works with every level of immunity. So we could say it's so important. It maybe is the most important. But when we look at this just a level deeper, we see, I'm one slide ahead. We're going to back up here. When we look at zinc and we look at the foods that contain zinc, it's pretty plentiful. We have meats, we have cheese, we have seeds and nuts, foods that are an everyday supply. So we would think, wow, zinc deficiency should be pretty rare. Deficiency, again, is that insufficiency. Actually, zinc is one of the more common insufficient minerals, or minerals that we're insufficient of. This tends to be common. And one of the reasons, I had to throw in this slide because Iowa is an agricultural state. So all of our growing of corn, of soybeans, very, very important. This is a map of the United States showing the states where they have zinc deficiency in the soil. So there's several reasons that a person can be zinc deficient. One is they might not be consuming enough of the zinc foods. One might be the foods that we're consuming have less zinc in them, depending upon where they were grown or the food they were fed from, if it's like a beef source. The other reason is that zinc in itself is very, very powerful, but it only works if we can get zinc into the cell. So while it seems like the hero, it's really the flavonoids that come to the rescue to take that zinc into the cell. And you might have heard, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And I quite often thought about this and thought, an apple? I don't think of an apple as very a nutrient-dense food. It doesn't contain a lot of vitamin C, in fact, hardly any. Doesn't contain a lot of vitamin A, doesn't contain vitamin E. As I think and go through all the vitamins, minerals, it's not one of those nutrient-dense foods that we're always talking about. But what it is high in is flavonoid, which then allows the zinc to enter the cell and do its job. So we're talking about apples, we're talking about some nuts and seeds, we're talking about green tea. Other flavonoids, think bright colors, so the berries, really high, your purple grapes, really high in flavonoids. The other thing that flavonoids do, they're kind of like the secret hero, the Superman in disguise, is they help your immune system's memory bank so that it remembers that it has fought off viruses or bacteria at one point, so that it's not fresh and new to the body. So they play a very, very important role in our immune system. And nutrition, super, super, super important, as we were talking about the immune system as a whole, that anytime we become deficient in any one nutrient, that we lessen the strength of the body. We're all, that stronger together is true for the whole body. At the same time, I would I have to mention all the things that make the immune system stronger, and it's a diet containing all the nutrients. It's the sunshine for the vitamin D, the sunshine for feeling good, a positive mental attitude, good sleep so you can have rest and recovery for the body to take those nutrients and repair the body, movement, whether that be walking, biking, your favorite exercise, anything other than just sitting and managing stress. So we really want to talk about, okay, those are the foundation and the nutrients, but what next? What do I do? Because it's all good to say it, it's good to hear it, it's good to talk about it, but it's only good if it's super easy and we can implement it. And these are a few things that we can do to implement what we talked about this evening. And that is choose a rainbow of colors every single day. So when you're thinking, what should I have next? You can think, oh, well, I had blueberries for breakfast. I'll have, the apple as my snack. I'll have now for dinner, I'm going to have some zucchini or kiwi. So basing your food choices on the rainbow. The rainbow gives us hope. It gives us feeling good. and the colors of nutrition do as well. Looking at your week as a whole and deciding, when can I put in an omega-3 food? Is it some salmon on my salad? Is it choosing tuna? Which foods can you use and where can you put them? Just 2 to 3 times per week. Here's just an easy one, because you can get to choose your favorite foods, whatever they are. Choose 25 to 50 different foods every single week. Now, what we do know is that the average American only consumes 1 to 2 servings of fruit and vegetables, and they also eat, on average, only 12 servings, or not 12 servings, 12 different foods all the time. So I see this happen a lot when people start to get really healthy. They're like, okay, I'm going to eat a spinach salad with berries and chicken. That's only 3 foods. The more variety we consume, the healthier our microbiome. The healthier our microbiome, the better the healthy bacteria we create. The more we can take something like the beta-carotene from the carrot for vitamin A and create a healthy immune system. So 25 to 50 different foods each week. Your herbs count as well. So do you want to put on thyme and basil and oregano on your chicken or in your salad? Now you've already added an additional 3 different foods. You go out in the sun, the actual sun. You can't make vitamin D from the sunlight shining into your house. So spending 15 to 30 minutes outside, April through late March, April through September. And then also, I can't stress enough just to know your vitamin D level. And then if you're just still not sure, because maybe there's certain foods you can't eat for health reasons or you just don't like, I really suggest seeking out the help of a professional so that we can do some meal planning with you, or decide maybe for you and your health needs, a little supplementation might work best. And so that takes us to our end of our presentation. And Chris, did we have any questions in chat?
You don't yet, Lori, but if you do have a question, feel free to use the Q&A at the bottom, or to use the chat at the bottom would also be a good plan at this time.
Hey, Lori, this is Dick. I love the way that you introduced the topic about, what we've learned, and that, we think of vitamin C as something, oh gosh, we've always known that.
Yeah.
The truth is that we are learning things every year, and that approaching everything, even today, with this wonder of the unknown, realizing we don't have it all figured out. Obviously, for centuries, if not millennia, the brightest minds on earth thought the earth was flat. Well, they were wrong. And, and there's no doubt that we will learn more about what we didn't know. But putting into recent history, we all probably thought vitamin C is something we've known for centuries, and it's relatively new. And our knowledge of nutrition will continue to grow. It's great that we now have, I think, more of this understanding and emphasis that we are what we eat, and that nutrition is very complex, as is
that it gets really, really easy when we look at the variety. Instead of thinking, oh, am I getting enough here? And then, did I get vitamin C? Did I get calcium, and I get vitamin B. When we say, okay, let's enjoy some variety and come back to the simplicity of whole foods, it gets much easier. We get more flavors, and it can be enjoyable versus thinking, oh, all I get when I'm eating healthy is plain chicken breast and spinach. Not so exciting.
Lori, you mentioned
eating plain broccoli for 30 days in a row is not fun for anybody.
you mentioned sunshine, and that's something that I truly enjoy. In the winter months, are there indoor treatments like there's lamps or other things that people talk about, but is that really a way to grow vitamin D within us?
Right. I know you can get light lamps. I can't remember at this point if it helps you produce vitamin D though or not.
That seems unlikely.
I know that the tanning beds can help a little bit.
Yeah, we can't recommend that.
That's not
right?
so healthy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
So it's very possible there are some that are out there. But the biggest, I think, myth is that at any time of the year, I can stand outside and immediately create vitamin D. And that's not the case. Mm-hmm. It's only, here in Iowa, only the months of April through September. So whatever you have built up at September needs to last you till April.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that's why we February, everybody starts to get kind of blue, right?
Right, yeah.
And you really start thinking about, can I go to Mexico? Can I go to Florida, right?
Yeah.
We're yearning for that sun.
Yeah,
Reason.
And it's probably even beneath our conscious level of understanding.
I think it is.
Feel like that's what we need to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm totally with you. Well, I don't see any comments in the chat or in the question and answer. So I thought it was very informative. Dick, any further questions?
No, I just really appreciate your speaking to us, the interest that we all have in nutrition and our greater understanding, as I said, that we are what we eat, and that, and it's not so much that, as you know, that eating one particular food is going to do the job, or that when you have cancer, all you have to do is this. Nutrition is a lifelong, and nutrition makes a big impact, and the impact happens over decades. Mm-hmm. So it's even more important to learn these things when we're younger. And when we get cancer, it's not that changing our diet is going to affect the survival of the cancer you've just been diagnosed with. But fortunately, most people are diagnosed with a cancer that can be cured. And today's the day to start thinking about, how can I change my diet that's going to affect my health in the next decade, 2 or 3. So we have to have patience with nutrition, and that's difficult, but we can't change the past, but we definitely can impact the future with what we eat. So
yeah, that's well said, because nutrition is really about building new. We're getting that chance to build new every day, but over time then we create versus creating something in the moment. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Mm-hmm. I look forward to hearing future talks, and we really appreciate it. As all of you know, this will be on our website, and spread the word so that people who weren't able to join us live tonight can listen to your talk at their own time.
Yeah, it'll be on our YouTube channel starting tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lori.
You're welcome.
Hey, Lori, thanks a lot. Really informative.
Good night, everybody.